This is my list for the very best paddles that stand apart for generating spin. In addition to considering RPM measurements alone, I also considered the ability of these paddles to generate spins from all different court positions, including bigger swings at the baseline and brushes at the kitchen, as well as contributory factors such as quality face texture and ball absorption. I won't cover all the details of each paddle here, but I do have reviews at length of most of these paddles if you want more details, and I'll link those in the description below this video. Coming in at a tie for number 5 is the Chorus Supercourt series in the Engage Pursuit V2.0. I reserved the number 5 spot on this list for a high spinning budget paddle, and I really couldn't pick between these two, so I'll give them each a spot here as a tie. The Engage V2.0 is the cheapest on this list, and though Engage is transitioning the way they do discount codes, it'll fall somewhere between $80 and $90 after the use of those discount codes. This comes with Engage's high value lifetime warranty and their 30-day test drive policy. The V2.0 is a hybrid shape, and it has a very nice carbon fiber face surface that generates great spin, has good control, and falls in the middle of the balanced all-court play category. The Chorus Supercourt series falls just over that $100 mark after the discount code PBMED, and this thermoform design comes in all 3 shape options depending on your preference. In addition to the classic cream color, they now have the Tronic and Fresh colorways, each of which have a high quality carbon fiber face and an added layer of fiberglass for some additional pop. Comparing these two budget paddles directly, the Supercourt series does have more shape options, and comparing its hybrid-shaped HX to the hybrid-shaped Pursuit V2.0, the V2.0 is lighter and more maneuverable. The Supercourts have a bit more pop and power, while the V2.0 is easier to control. The thermoform design of the Supercourts also dampen vibrations better than the V2.0, but the Gen 1 construction of the V2.0 give it great durability alongside its lifetime warranty. Coming in at number 4 is the Neonic Flare Prime X. This truly unique paddle took the number 2 overall spot for Best Paddles of 2024, and it comes in at $126 after this channel's discount code. The Flare Prime X is offered in the standard shape, with a narrow handle and an overall high level of maneuverability, and it comes with one of the best feeling faces on the market that really grabs and spins the ball well, producing RPMs at 2,210. It has a denser core with 6mm sized honeycombs, and it comes 14mm thick, so dwell time isn't huge, and pop is pretty strong, which I would put right at the top end of the all-court category. It has an average level of plow-through speed on drives, and I do think it needs some added weight to perform its very best. Coming in at number 3 is the Franklin C45 Series. Landing at $207 after discount codes, the C45 is, without a doubt, the go-to paddle for people who like ultra-fast paddles with pop clearly in the power paddle range. As opposed to paddles with high dwell time, the C45 has a relatively lower dwell time and a quick release of the ball off the face, making it ideal for people who want to activate spin with little effort and sneak in rolls and high spin shots. At the time of this video, they have the 14mm hybrid option available to the public, but in early June they'll be releasing their elongated and standard shapes, both in the 16 and 14mm thicknesses. Similar to the Neonic Flare Prime X, I do feel the C45 shapes, all of them, require added weight to function at its peak performance, and it does highlight itself as a paddle that excels in maneuverability, pop, and spin, while producing drive speeds that fall more in the all-court type range. Coming in at our number 2 spot is the 16mm Joola Pro IV Scorpeus. All of the paddles in the Joola Pro IV series spin very well, but the shape, maneuverability, and high dwell time of the 16mm Pro IV Scorpeus in particular allow this paddle to produce some incredibly awesome rates of spin. The Joola Pro IVs are some of the best power paddles out there, and as opposed to the Franklin C45s, they tend to have a much higher plow-through speed on drives and maintain high pop, though a little lower pop than the C45s have. The 16mm Scorpeus is very stable, has a huge sweet spot, and a longer handle that makes it easy to whip and flick, keeping maneuverability levels high. It feels very plush, dampens vibrations well, and it has a higher dwell time that really seems to grab and throw the ball for great spin and recoil off the face. The list price of the Joolas is one of the highest on the market, and the best way to get a deal on one of these is to order through a distributor. Distributors are not allowed to advertise their prices or discounts publicly, so I'll leave a link to a Google form below if you want a private message with the best available deals on these Joola Pro IVs, and I'll have my distributor reach out to you directly. The Joola Pro IVs are great paddles for people who want high plow-through power and strong pop with good ball absorption, but if you have a hard time with control, these may not be the paddles for you. Before I name my top paddle for spin, I'll name some very solid honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is the unMarked Alpha by Marked Pickleball. This is a super solid paddle that has a coarse grit that's lasted extremely well, and it may have made this list, but it's since stopped official production. They're slapping some graphics on this and calling the newer models the Mark II R2, but until I can verify and test that it truly is the same paddle, I just can't put it on this list or any other. Honorable mention number 2 is the Pickleball Apes Pulse series. As opposed to paddles with crazy grit, the Pulse series really relies on an incredible ball absorption to generate high spin. Unfortunately for Pulse fans, the Pulse series will be replaced this summer and will no longer be in production, as it'll be replaced by the upcoming Harmony series. Honorable mentions 3 and 4 are the 𝑳𝒊𝒏𝒌𝒔 Plus and the 𝑳2K Plus by Honolulu Pickleball. These paddles both feel great, have high ball absorption and grit, but the 𝑳2K Plus changes a lot and it's demonstrated high rates of core crushing. The 𝑳2Ti Plus doesn't seem to crush quite as often, and if a person were to pick one of these two, the 𝑳2Ti Plus option is the one I'd recommend here, but I just couldn't see which of the paddles on this list it would replace. Our last 2 honorable mentions are the OG wide bodies of the Mach II Forza and the Spartus Apollo, which have been long-time high spinners, and they still are, so not a ton bad to say here, but to put it simply, at this point we just have better, more advanced, or cheaper options that spin just as well as these two do. Okay, I know I said those last ones were the last honorable mentions, but I'm adding this here because literally a couple days after I filmed this video, the Ripple V2 series passed PBCourt and became USAP approved. The previous beta Ripples were elite spinners, that's definitely for sure, and right now we need more time to test actual gameplay spin, durability, and things like that on the V2s, but if these spin anything like the previous beta Ripples did, look for those to make a serious run at this list in the future. My number 1 overall pick for best paddle for spin is Carbon's TruFoam Genesis 2. This was the first paddle with a full foam core to hit the market legally, and records one of the highest spin rates of any paddle I've ever tested. It's highly maneuverable, has a very good sweet spot, and has effectively eliminated the single biggest durability concern paddles have, which is crushing of honeycomb cores. With this channel's discount code PBMED, the price of the TruFoam Genesis 2 comes to $252, which is not cheap, but for the right people, it can be very worth it. It's worth noting that Carbon still maintains their 30-day, no questions asked return policy, so if you test one of these out and decide it's not for you, you can return it for a full refund. The spin of the TruFoam utilizes a couple of things, one of which is a unique flexing of the paddle's full foam core, which remains predominantly unchanged over time, and like all paddles, grit plays a role too. My TruFoam Genesis 2 was used as my main paddle for roughly 6 weeks, and then intermittently for the next couple of months or so. Over that time, the surface texture on the face has been mostly unchanged. Comparing this side by side a new Genesis 2, aside from some visible nicks on the face from ball contact, they feel and sound about the same. I compared microscope views of that used TruFoam Genesis 2 to the brand new one. You can see the straight and orderly impressions left by the coarse peel ply on the surface here, which is what gives the face a textured feel. Comparing that to the face of the old one, you can see some of the edges of the squares have started to blur a bit and be slightly less crisp, but overall it appears to have maintained its base appearance and continuity fairly well. And I'm not saying that grit is never going to wear out, because it certainly is, but it does appear to be wearing at a slower than average rate at this point. If you wonder what those little nicks look like under a microscope, this is one of the bigger ones I could find. Luckily, this is quite small in comparison to the size of a pickleball, but you can see if the face were just chock full of these types of marks, it would likely be pretty impactful, but at this point the amount of impact this many marks has had on spin has been pretty minimal and quite unnoticeable by me. Overall playability wise, I put this paddle in the low end of the power category, with drive speeds that are clearly in the power range, but pop levels that fall more on the low side. This makes for a paddle that's much easier to control than the Joolas or the Franklin C45s, especially combining that with its strong sweet spot. So if you want a power paddle with high pop, this is not going to wow you if that's what you're looking for. I think the spin here is best activated on bigger swings, which activates more of that flex type effect to manipulate the ball. The feel of this paddle is also quite different than most others, and it lowers ball vibrations to an almost non-existent level, which some may either love or hate. This is going to be a good paddle for people who like spin, obviously, and want it in a paddle that has high drive speeds, lower pop levels, a nice sweet spot, and want the benefit of what still appears to be groundbreaking durability. This won't be the paddle for people who want industry-leading levels of pop, for those who like a more aggressive sounding paddle, or if you're in the market for a more budget-friendly paddle. And that's my list of the top 5 paddles that are currently on the market. I hope the review was helpful. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you here for the next one.